Hey everyone, we're going to proceed with the next lesson in terms of how to find an angle in a right triangle, but there are some definite calculator skills that we want to work on before we kind of get into the idea of working with right triangles. And I kind of relate to, I guess, working your calculator, kind of like driving a car. We've got forward gears and we've got reverse. And lots of times when we're working with our calculators, we're driving in a forward gear. And what I mean by finding a forward gear is in our first examples here, we want to find the decimal ratios for the angles. So if I pulled up my calculator, if I want to go sine of 33, and then I would press enter, I call that driving forward because I put in, I'm just hitting the button, cosine 55 and tangent of 77. I call that driving forward. I put in the angle that I know and it gives me the ratio. And a lot of things that we're going to do in math, we're going to drive forward with our calculators. But these are all examples of where you know the angle. Our lesson is about figuring out how do you work your calculator when you know the ratio and don't know the angle. How do we determine the angle? And what I'm saying in our notes is that we have to tell our calculator to go backwards. So we need this little sine minus one or sine minus one to be able to figure out how to work backwards with the sine ratio, or cos minus one to work backwards on the cosine ratio. And different calculators work differently. If we go to the Desmos calculator, there's nowhere on this page do you see the sine minus one, the cos minus one, and tan minus one. It's hiding in the function. So a lot of times on our calculators, we have to use a second key or a shift key, or in this case, we're going to use the function key to show sine minus one. So now when I look at example A, and I want to find the angle if the sine ratio is 0.6947. I type in the ratio in my reverse order, and it tells me my angle is 44 degrees. If I'm going to do the second example, which is cosine of B, I've got the decimal. I tell my calculator to go backwards, so cos minus 1, and that decimal was 0.4067. And that tells me my angle is 66 degrees. So going forwards, the cosine of 66 degrees is 0.4067. Going backwards, the ratio of 0.4067 for cosine, which is adjacent over hypotenuse, has to be 66 degrees. And similarly, if I have tangent, tangent minus 1, 0.8391, and I enter that, I get my answer of 40 degrees. So that's nice when our calculator allows you to push a button and put in the decimals, and it gives you the angle. Unfortunately, not all scientific calculators work that way. If I was to pull up our calculator from our computer, it's a calculator app. I'm in a scientific calculator. There's different calculators, but I want to be in scientific calculator. I've got a trig menu. So I'm going to go to my trig menu, and you can kind of see it says sine, cosine, and tangent here. And when I press second, now I get the sine minus 1, cos minus 1, tan minus 1. So again, different calculators have different ways of doing the questions. Now, the other thing that's a challenge with this calculator is I need to put the ratio in first. I'm going to put in, for my sine ratio, I'm going to put in 0.6947. So I put my ratio in this time, and now I go to my trig, and this, I still have second turned on, sine ratio. So you can kind of see up here in the corner, it says sine minus 1 now, 0.6947. So my answer is 44 degrees in all these decimals. Okay, so we always round things off to a whole number for degrees, so 44 would be the answer. If I was going to do cosine of B equals 0.4067, I put 0.4067, and I go to my trig. I got sine, and this was the cosine. We're working reverse cosine, so that angle is still 66 degrees. So you have to know how to work your calculator in order to figure out, do I put my ratio in first and then go to my trig values, or do I do like what the Desmos calculator is? I just get to push the button and then put the decimal in, and it gives me the answer. So you're going to have to figure out how your calculator works. First of all, you need to make sure you know how to work your calculator backwards to get the sine -1, cos -1, and tan -1. And then figure out, are you working with a calculator like Desmos, or you're working like a calculator where you put the decimals in first. Okay. Once we've got that mastered, once you know how to figure out your angles for these three examples on your own, then we're ready to start solving the problem. And that's what we'll do in our next video. We'll solve some triangles.